They knew what they wanted. They went out there because they were highly motivated, wanting to do well for the country, and I think they made the country very, very proud. Unfortunately, we couldn't get to the final, but the performance over the last couple of matches was really inspiring for the young kids out there.
And for aspiring women in this country, what would be your message to them?
I'd say, especially in women's football, you have a lot of girls that have degrees now. Try and marry the two up. Make sure that you don't only have women's football, with the football at heart, but also make sure that you work with, with being sure that you make life after football. A lot of the girls currently have degrees compared to in the past when they didn't have.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your time. You look beautiful. Tell me, who dressed you?
It's actually Ginger Mary. I love the make of the clothing. So it actually, the brand is called Ginger Mary.
Enjoy the evening. As the coach of Banyana, Desiree Ellis, let me hand it over to Samkele.
Well, Lulama, political players are indeed arriving. You've also seen the arrival of these provincial secretaries in the Free State, Mr. Puletiso Mswaneng, and also Mr. Muzichua, provincial secretary, and also Mrs. Sizagele Chirwa. And Gwen Tasha, the national chairperson of the ANC, is here, also Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy. But it's very reluctant to speak today. Mr. Mantashe. Minister Mantashe, how are you?
It's not your business.
It's not my business.
It's not your business.
Come, let's speak energy. Come, let's speak about energy.
No, when we come out.
What are your promises today about energy with your president?
What are our commitments?
Oh, you make commitments, not promises now.
Commitments.
Let's engage Mr. Chirwa and also Mr. Mswaneng. Your province is largely a coal province. Also, you've got renewable energy in your province. What are the expectations coming into the nation, particularly looking at the economy of your provinces?
Our expectation is that the president will emphasize much on our message, all the commitments that are there, and on energy. That is a part that we will be using to create jobs for young people and the people of our country.
Mr. Mswaneng, your side, particularly looking at the transmission lines that are being built in the Northern Cape and Free State to encompass that renewable energy onto the grid?
In fact, there's going to be a serious collaboration between our province and the Northern Cape. And as a result, we are expecting that national government would have to put more impetus in terms of how we are going to expedite that energy transition from the two provinces, which must be a blueprint of our makeup in the province.
How many votes is Esmakhapula going to take from you in the Free State?
Zero.
Is Didi Mabuza going to be campaigning for you?
He's going to campaign, to lead the campaign. He's going to give a clear task.
Where was he during January 8th?
He was around the province, but he came to the stadium.
Are you going to be leading the Free State come after the elections?
We're going to
The Northwest?
Yes, we're going to do. We're going to do well. There are 30 ACs there. We are gunning for 30.
What are you doing with the CFO in Matlosane, village of corruption?
We have already issued to her 7 days where we should not suspend him legally from council. And the one of Moses Kotani, we have told council to and rescind the decision.
Have they rescinded the decision?
Yes, we're expecting them this week to rescind the decision.
Thank you very much. That is the provincial secretary of the ANC in the Northwest, Mpumalanga, and also the Free State province, saying that they are looking to address the issues, particularly in Mpumalanga, of the coal-powered power stations to remain afloat and for them to continue creating jobs. They raised the issue of the unjust that was done to the people of Komati when that Komati power station was closed down, and prematurely knowing that it was the best performing power station that the power utility Eskom had. As you can see, the two individuals here who are members of Parliament. Mr. What are you looking for in this State of the Nation address? As I also ask Mr. Zweli Mkhize, the former Minister of Health. I'm very good, Mr. Mkhize. Just your expectations with the rolling out and the implementation of the National Health Insurance now?
Well, we have heard from the party and from the President that the National Health Insurance Bill will be signed. So we're expecting that they should proceed. We think it's actually a landmark achievement to actually break down inequality in health, and so it's a very, very important issue for us. It's been an issue that we have dealt with over a long time, so we're quite happy with that. It's gonna be whether it comes out today or not. It's not the issue. The point is that it was passed by Parliament.
When you're looking at the State of the Nation address successfully since the administration started in 2019, what are some of the key achievements that this administration has achieved?
Well, look, there's been a lot of challenges, if I may say, because I think the unemployment issues have been very high. Of course, there's been an effort to try and bring it down. The challenge again has been the fact that there's been a huge impact of the COVID situation, which has effectively dealt with the economic growth and reduced it. So we've now recovered to the pre-COVID days, and so I think that's also an important issue to look at. But I must say, as we move forward, the real major focus for us as government, as the ruling party, as the country, is to really try to improve on unemployment, to deal with the issues of poverty, and also to deal with the challenges of crime. And all of these, I think all South Africans are very concerned about.
Is the political ground shaking there in KZN? Is the former president shaking you up as the ANC? Are you losing that province?
No, well, look, the president, former president Zuma, has got a right to form a political party, and all of us, we don't make assumptions. When we go to people, we have to talk to people on the basis of what we think the ANC can still achieve, and therefore get them to support the ANC. We have to go out there without making any assumptions, and I think that people will still support the African National Congress.
Have you had an opportunity to engage him? I know Begum Tolo said you had been sent to him.
No, we have not engaged, but at the end of the day, I think what's important is the fact that as the ANC, we have been aware that he has decided to support a different party, and we must respect that and then move on from there.
Sibonge, Bab Kabazel. Bafana Yobe, as a resident of Tshwane, issues of electricity, we are almost out of time. Just one question: what are you doing when it comes to the electricity, when it comes to the oversight of issues pertaining to water in Tshwane, particularly Hammanskraal?
No, I think there's work that's been done. We know that there is progress being made, especially with the appointment of an implementing agent to look at the challenges of water in Hammanskraal. The Department of Water and Sanitation nationally has appointed the DBSA to look at implementing a solution in that over the crisis. So we are confident that in no time there will be boots on the ground, and construction will soon begin in relating to solving the problem at source, as the problem is upstream and not exactly at the tap or the reservoir in Hammanskraal.
Thank you very much. We'll also just lastly engage with the Minister of Public Enterprise, with the Minister of Public Works as well at some point in time. That would be Mr. Sihlezi Galala. But essentially, what you are seeing is that the President has a tough balancing task ahead of him. Also, the Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, has also gone in. That is a man who essentially will be cringing tonight as what promises that the President will make. What impact will that have on the fiscus, knowing that South Africa is currently on the verge of I can't say bankruptcy, but South Africa's balance sheet is not properly balancing, looking at our debt rate as compared to our GDP currently. And the minister usually the day before interacts with the president, looks through the State of the Nation address with the president, but this time around Minister of Finance Enoch Godongwana did not get that opportunity to sit with the president yesterday to go through that State of the Nation address. In fact, the president last sat with the Minister of Finance on Tuesday looking at the State of the Nation address. Yesterday the president had any of these ministers close next to him as he was drafting the final draft that would be read out here tonight at the State of the Nation address. So the issue of government expenditure is the one issue that the Minister of is going to be scratching his head this evening on what promises the president will make. How much will be increased when it comes to social relief within the country, knowing currently over 18 million South Africans are currently on social grants, Iman.
You know how long the two of us have been trying to be in the same room on the same broadcast together? Our whole careers.
Exactly. Finally.
Yeah, finally.
Finally.
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to check.
You've been doing this for 30 years.
Okay.
Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me? Is it fine?
I hope my phone's off.
Is the mic off?
No, I don't think so. Is my mic off?
Can you hear?
You don't have it there. Can you please say something?
Hello, hello. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Hi, I'm
Okay.
am I chatting? Is that? Can you hear me fine? Good.
is a big night, and good evening to you, Bongiwe, and to all our beautiful viewers of Full View. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Our rolling coverage continues in the shadow of the facade of this beautiful building. 190 years old, this grand dame is, and I think we're going to have a lot of moving parts tonight, so we're going to be quick on our feet. And actually, to kick off, speaking of being quick on our feet, I'm going to introduce you to our studio guests. Of course, the gorgeous Sakina Kamwenda. We have been waiting for this moment forever to work together.
All our lives.
All our lives.
Finally, it has happened.
And finally, we're together. And in the spirit of gifts, because this is how we do it, for you, there is your beautiful flower. It's also a tribute to a conversation that you had early this morning when you were in Adderley Street at the flower market. I'll come back to Sakina for that conversation that you had with Delia and with Levi, but what they were talking about, real bread and butter issues. I'll introduce you to our analysts this afternoon, but let's go straight to the red carpet. Lulama.
Okay. I'm joined by the Minister of Health, Dr. Joe Pahla. Minister, on health issues, what are you expecting the President to address this evening?
Well, firstly, I hope that the President will highlight the fact that we have completely recovered from the pandemic, that despite the fact that there was high pressure, our health services are still standing, and we are really we've made significant progress in terms of recovery of services, and that we are focusing now on continuous improvement quality of service, including aspects such as infrastructure, improvement also in human resources, notwithstanding the fact that there's been a lot of noise about doctors who have, and that matter is being addressed, and they will soon be able to make some announcements in terms of a solution very soon. We will be able, and it's because human resources, the health professionals are very key in as far as improving the quality of services. But also to commit to the fact that we are indeed very serious about realizing a universal health coverage, and in Parliament having passed the National Health Insurance Bill, which the President is still studying, and he will be able to pronounce his final decision on that. It will be positive. But on the other hand, while that is happening, from our side, the implementers, we getting ready. We have appointing, the professionals who are going to be able to, make sure that that policy and legislation can be fully implemented, and to say also that it will be, it will be incremental, that it will be implemented in stages as we get more capacity and as we are able to put in more resources starting from the primary health. So I'm sure President will be able to pronounce that we are fully committed to making sure that finally in stages, in a very careful implementation, South Africans will reach a stage where you are not required to pay at the point of service to receive health services.
Thank you very much, Minister. That was the Minister of Health, Dr. Joe Pahla. With that, let me hand over to you, Samkele.
Indeed, Lulama, those members of parliament are trickling in. But South Africans are less worried about who they are wearing, who has addressed them tonight. They are worried about issues of job prospects, issues of resolving the energy crisis, issues of resolving the crumbling road infrastructure within the country. Youth unemployment has skyrocketed within the country as well. Those are some of the issues that South Africans are particularly worried about, and they want to find out what the President will be planning in resolving those particular issues. The Minister of Electricity, we will speak to him shortly. That is Dr. Khosiyanto Ramokgopa, as well, as they do have to build that particular power station. But we'll bring in the President of the ANC Youth, Mr. Colin Malaji. You're the President of the Youth League, but unemployment is skyrocketing in the country. What are you doing?
Look, unemployment is a crisis. We've declared a disaster, and what we expect from the President address solutions to that, and we've given him solutions as the Youth League. One of the biggest solutions we've given him is the skills revolution. We've said a budget must be put aside to resolve the issue of skills. Young people must be kept busy. while we're still dealing with the issue of the reindustrialization of the economy, the export quotas that must be used to revive the secondary and tertiary industries. For now, let's risk young people with skills that respond to the economy of Africa. Now, that's where we are.
When you're looking at skills, and particularly knowing that there are much needed skills, recently the government, there's been no doctors in hospitals. What's going on within that particular aspect? A number of students who've gone to Cuba to study medicine in the country, some of them are still sitting at home, don't have jobs. What's going on?
As a youth league, we're clear that we don't tolerate that. We've called upon the Minister of Health to place doctors because there's a demand in clinics for doctors and everywhere else. Now we can't cut budget on health. You know, health is a very essential service that must be given to everyone. It's a right that must be given to all South Africans. It's a right that we've committed to ANC that will keep South Africans. Now we will never accept anyone that tells us that there is no placement and budget to hire doctors. Now that one we're clear on it, and we've told the minister to start acting. If you can see in Limpopo, they've already started to act and resolve the issue of placing doctors, and we're calling upon all MECs and everyone else must follow suit on what is happening in Limpopo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Colin Malaju. That is Colin Malaju, the president of the ANC Youth League, as I hand over to my colleagues in this rolling coverage of the State of the Nation address.
Second week, so you get to be informed, but in the most concrete fashion.
I'm going to be speaking with the Minister of Electricity, just going to try to catch you before he goes. Minister, aside from you are the other person in the spotlight tonight. What are you hoping to hear the President say regarding what everybody is talking about, and that's electricity and load shedding?
Oh yes, I mean, we sit with the President, we give feedback at cabinet level, and I give feedback to the country on a bi-weekly basis. And the point I'm making is that you can see that there's recognizable improvement in the intensity of load shedding. So you don't have to believe me, you just need to do an assessment at your house, the amount of hours that the lights are on or off compared to the same period last year. So it's coming down, but the point is not just to bring it down, is to ensure that we completely eliminate it. And that's why we make the point that what undermines our ability to get benefit of new generation capacity is the transmission side. So we need to be investing on transmission so that there can be an aggressive onboarding of renewable energy to press the capacity that is already sitting with ESCOM that is waning as a result of aging infrastructure. So that's a focal point. So I expect the President to say one or two things about that, and of course when you do the debate I'll be able to elaborate more on those interventions. So I don't have to rate myself. Let the public rate me. When I entered the office, what was the intensity of load shedding? Today, what is the intensity of load shedding? I'll leave for the public to answer it, but you know what the situation is. That's right.
If you could speculate, what do you think the public would say?
No, I don't have to speculate. I don't have crystal ball. Just I don't throw the ball. Let the public make their own determination. Is load shedding the intensity coming down or not compared to December of last year, compared to January of last year? You answer the question, and we all know objective is coming down. Is that enough? No, absolutely not enough. That's why we need to take this kind of action that we are taking to ensure that we eliminate it completely.
Yes, it has gone down, but will it go up again next month?
No, I am saying on average it's going down and continue to go down. That's the point that I'm making, with the intention of ultimately eliminating load shedding.
Minister, thank you so much. That was the Minister of Electricity telling us that he is expecting to hear the President make some announcements about the electricity situation in the country. Can we take, are you going to Samkelo? Okay, my colleague Mithro Samkelo, I think he's going to take some more MPs. I think he's going to be grabbing the IFP President.
Well, I must say, Abra, there on the red carpet with the electricity minister, there was a chuckle inside the studio, because that is a dangerous gambit to throw down, a dangerous kind of challenge to throw down to the people of South Africa. Yes, it may be stable for a while, but is it going to hold? Let me quickly tell you who's in the room. Of course, Sakina is with us. We'll be having this conversation together with Gundo Maswime, who is in the Civil Engineering Department at UCT, and Kim Silberman, who's an economic strategist with the Matrix Fund. She chuckled when he said that.
I think he did, because we're wondering, I suppose, whether the minister is living in a parallel universe. Because if we look at last year, 2023, there were 332 days of load shedding. 74 of those days were on stage 6. So if you track this, not even since 2012 or before that, you just go during this last administration, the 6th administration, it's gotten progressively worse. So I'm not sure that that's a good story to tell, but this is why we have our guests here. Maybe they can help us unpack.
Well, go ahead. Who wants to take a bite first?
Yeah, I think the real paradox is how were we able to stop load shedding for about almost 3 years, and then load shedding started again, and until now we cannot go and extract whatever formula was used then, because we have listened to the administration that time when we had Brian Molefe and Machala go at ESCOM. So this is always the big question that's in our minds, because those who are still walking around, they are still talking, and you know, so that is the big question. And the fact that we seem to be now starting to celebrate when load shedding is reduced. The question is the question that people are now asking themselves is there a time where we will completely eliminate this problem? So it looks like that has been moving. If you listen to the SG of the ANC, it was finished December last year. If you listen to him, and if you listen to the president, we are about to contain it, and I'm sure we will hear about. I hope this time at least we will not be able to commit to a date, but if it does, we'll be noting that with a lot of interest. So the question is, what actually happens within an organization that is tasked to do something, and that thing does not happen? And even with all the problems, no one is saying we are failing to do this, we are failing to do that, so that we can also understand, you know, is it something that we know somebody that can do it, or even if they're having to wait for budgets, could it be something that we can throw money at? Can we get somebody in another country to do it? You know, it's all those things. It's very difficult for us to understand. We have got, this country has very good engineers, very good electrical engineers.
So what is happening? Gundo will come back to your views on this, but of course our colleagues down on the parade. So let's take you back there to Samkele Maseko to find out who he's with.
Well, indeed, Sakina, we are with the president of the IFP, and we will be speaking. Just the essence, what we're anticipating tonight, particularly around issues of jobs, electricity, rural development.
Thank you very much, Samge. The IFP is expecting the president not to make talks an empty promise. Firstly, it must be full accountability of what successes have been done over a period of 5 years, and we are marking this SONA marks the end of the third decade, which is 30 years. The government must also make a full accountability of progress that has been done over this period. The truth, Samgelo, you know, the ruling party went on record that by December 2023, they will have solved load shedding. Unfortunately, they are still on load shedding. They have failed on unemployment, crime is worse, corruption escalated, SOEs have failed. In a nutshell, we do not expect the president to give empty promises, because it's only 3 months to go from now to elections. He can't promise 12 months because they will not be there after elections. The trend of the ruling party going down is a demonstration. They are going out, the mood outside. 2024 is our 1994. We will be removing a government that has failed us over 30 years and elect a new government, of which the IFP is going to be part of a new government in South Africa, in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng, to a fresh start in the dreams and aspirations of the people of South Africa, to save our country from what it is brought by the ruling party.
When you look at particular areas, rural areas in the country, looking at KwaZulu-Natal, you go to Mkhanyakude, go to Zululand, you go to Mshwati, the Mpumalanga district, you go to Tugela district. What are some of the main issues that need to be addressed in those areas that you are hoping may filter through the State of the Nation address, such as provisions, such as rural roads that are largely gravel?
The infrastructure is very bad in the rural communities, and even when you go to Black Township, it's a disgrace. Roads are very bad, bridges have been washed by the floods. It's taken too long to see any action to fix the damage. Communities are running short of water. South Africa has sufficient money. The problem, the money is mismanaged and misappropriated. That is why we need a new government that will appropriate resources accordingly and also ensure that the available resources benefit the people of South Africa.
Were you not disappointed that they wanted to bring in Roger Jardine in the Moonshot Pact and they did not consider you to be president?
No, I don't know that story where it comes from. You see, in South Africa, you cannot just come from nowhere and think you will take a leading role. People who will provide leadership in a new government are people that have been struggling with our people during rainy days, during sunny days, not people not knowing where they come from. The multi-party charter in relation to the person you are talking about.
So you may as well just come up as the presidential candidate of the multi-party charter.
No, we agreed as a multi-party charter that deciding now who will be a presidential candidate might favor the political party the person comes from to give a fair chance. Every of the multi-party charter will be contesting elections alone with its manifesto. If we manage to get 50+1, then we will make a decision who will be a presidential candidate when the government is on. But for now, it's all about campaigns, not about positions. It's about influencing people of South Africa that 24 is time for change. It's time for an alternative government that will give a new direction to our government and save our country from going down the drain under the current government.
Thank you very much, Mr. Velongo Senhlabisa, the president of the IFP. I'm handing over to my colleague, Lula Mahmad.
Thank you very much, Samkele. Well, fashion is part of the State of the Nation address. I am joined by the Minister of Social Development, Lindiwe Zulu, who looks stunning. Turn around, the Minister. Turn around, Minister, please. Thank you very much. But we're not going to talk about your outfit. We're going to talk about this bag because you are custodian of the vulnerable communities. Tell us more about this bag.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Of course, my outfit also is my highlight because, again, it's my daughter's creation. But this bag is also just as important because this bag is from the Cape Town Society of the Blind. We support the organization by both financial and otherwise because we think that people with disability also must be able to be given the opportunity. This is what they do, not just, they do it from scratch. They do the fabric, put it together, and they make the bag. Of course, the bag is a little bit bigger, but my daughter felt like, no, it's too big for this outfit. Let us just reduce it a little bit. Today, during the day, I spent a lot of the time. I went to St. Elysian, which is another very, it's another center that we are supporting because it is a center that brings young people, some of them from the street, some of them from the townships. It's St. Elysian. They empower them with skills because while I am expecting that the president will touch particularly on the issues of the most vulnerable, in particular with the issues of social grants and all, I also am very much committed to ensuring that people are given the necessary skills so that the younger generation, the younger men and women do not depend on the social grant. We want to empower them in order for them to take care of themselves because
The grants obviously are not adequate to take care of them, but the grants are a necessity in as far as supporting them while the jobs are not available, while the jobs are coming very slowly, while the economy itself, even though record today is telling us that the economy is slightly going back to pre-COVID, but when all is said and done, community members are still out there without the jobs, without food, without the basics that we take for granted. So when I see a bag like this, I went there for the new intake of people with especially blind. The Department, Social Development, as well as the National Development Agency have supported them. What I think is also important, we supported them with equipment that tests their eyes, just to check how far is their disability in as far as vision is concerned. We bought the latest equipment, Japanese equipment, obviously, and we are going to make sure that those that are coming from the poorest communities, they don't have to pay anything, but they told me that in order for them to also sustain the center, they will also allow other people who are able to come in and test their eyes and pay. I got my eyes tested there, so I've got my script in my hand.
Thank you very much, Minister. That was the Minister of Social Development, Lindy Wezulu. Well, there are issues because some of the NPOs are saying that they are not being funded adequately. Some are closing, but that's a story for another day. For now, let me cross to my colleague, Ava.
Thank you so much. I'm going to be speaking to the leader of the Freedom Front Plus, Dr. Groenewald, who obviously has been who is a long-serving member of Parliament. I'll ask you about expectations because we had that discussion with you. What I want to know from you, sir, is this is the last SONA for the 6th Parliament. Looking back at the last 5 years, are you satisfied with the way your party performed?
No, not at all. I mean, we must remember when Ramaphosa became the president in 2018, because this is going to be his 8th State of the Nation address, everybody was very excited. Speaking about Ramaphosa, I actually at that stage was the only member of parliament who said, I'm not so excited, and the proof lies in the eating of the pudding. So I've been proven correctly, because people are very, very, can I say, not only disappointed, some are even disgusted with the fact that he made so many promises. And go and look, under his leadership, there were many crises which he did not deal with. He always tell us a story about there's going to be a summit on this, there's going to be a meeting of that, investors coming to South Africa. The economy declined under his leadership. Unemployment raised and increased under his leadership. He himself said that the ANC is accused number 1 when it comes to corruption. But I said to him, but you're number 1 of accused number 1. And look where we are. There are people that is actually saying that there were more corruption under Ramaphosa as his predecessor Zuma. Let's take the COVID for instance. He made a promise when they started with the disaster and said that he gave orders to the Treasury as well as the Auditor General to ensure no corruption takes place. And it's not millions, it's billions of corruption that took place. Therefore, he should apologize to the people of South Africa. Many promises made by him and they did not materialize.
Dr. Groenewald, just briefly again, coming back to the 6th Parliament, what are your thoughts on how Parliament performed as an institution over the past 5 years?
My impression is that the decorum of Parliament the last 6 years were actually demolished, and it is squarely on the shoulders of the Speaker to have to ensure that there is a decorum. Now suddenly they come with strict measures. It's too little, too late.
Thank you so much for your time, Doctor. I'm now crossing to my colleague, Samkele, over to you.
Well, Abra, indeed, there are issues pertaining to defense. Minister, are you ready with your defense plan should anything shake up during the elections?
We have actually been hard at work. We have done the preliminary work on the defense review. We will take it to a wider audience. We will invite you and the security experts and have a broader discussions. We're working on the finances and we will submit back to Cabinet and to the President.
Minister, during the week of the ICJ judgment, we saw the Griffins and the Falcons flying over the airspace at OR Tambo International Airport. What was going on when you saw those fighter jets out and flying in the airspace?
Well, to be honest, we were preparing for the Air Force Day, and there was nothing sinister about it. Because you must remember, you cannot keep your machinery just standing there. You also must keep on helping people to keep up their flight hours, and that is what was happening. We will continuously upgrade, we hope, when we have finished with our plans and get the necessary resources so that you can hear more and more flights on air. But it is also good for us to remember that you do possess these things as South Africans, that at any given time, anything that might threaten the sovereignty and the security of this country will be ready to deal with it.
Minister, but why does it coincide with the judgment of the ICJ and where the President is at Birchwood Hotel, and we've got these Falcons and Griffins, 5 of them flying over Birchwood Hotel, flying over OR Tambo with the airspace closed?
No. Coincidence? Maybe it was a coincidence. Threatening anybody? No. Sending a message anywhere? No. It was purely members of the South African Air Force practicing and doing what they need to do to upgrade their skills, and not to forget that at any given moment when they are called upon, they must be able to defend their country.
Minister, this is a safe space. You can speak to us and tell us what was really going on. Why those jets out?
They were preparing for the Air Force to have a day.
But flying where the President is, flying over where the President is?
No, not necessarily. No, that was a coincidence. Necessarily. That was coincidence.
Are you sure?
I am very sure.
Thank you.
Would I lie?
I don't know, Minister. Maybe there's something you're not alerting us.
No. I can assure you, we cannot afford to make enemies out there. We can always afford to make new friends.
You cannot afford to make mistakes. You can always afford to make new friends. Coded message.
That's not coded. But anybody who... They say even when you are at your weakest, you must be able to defend your territory and to do what you can.
So you are prepared for any eventuality?
We must always prepare for all eventualities.
Thank you very much, Minister Tadi Mutisa. That is over to you. Let me just grab the Minister of Communications quickly while he's running away. Lulama, over to you.
Thank you very much, Samkele. I am joined by the Minister in the Presidency looking after women, children and people with disabilities, Dr. Nkosana Dlamini Zuma. It's her last SONA because she has indicated that she's not coming back to Parliament after the elections. Ma'am, how would you rate this 6th Parliament, its performance, as well as the administration?
Well, I think we under the circumstances, we've tried. You know, there was COVID almost right at the beginning of the 6th administration, and COVID wreaked havoc both in the economy and generally health of the people. But we are now recovering we've now recovered from COVID, and the economy is also recovering. But maybe if it wasn't for COVID, we would have done much better.
A veteran like you leaving Parliament at this time, at this point in time, what are you going to tell us? Because I believe the country still needs a person like you.
Oh, what was I doing before I came to Parliament? There's a lot to do. I can help communities, I can help women, young people. There's a lot to do. I mean, I was not born into Parliament.
And tell me, what are you expecting to hear the president addressing when it comes to people in your portfolio?
Let's wait until he says it, then you can ask me.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That was the minister. Let me cross to you, SK and Iman then.
I can tell you there's a lot of chuckling in the studio for good reason though, because this definitely is a safe space. You've got to admire our reporters on the carpet, their tenacity and chutzpah in asking some of the questions we all want answered. And I think one of the biggest demands that we have of the SONA is around honesty, and I can tell you it doesn't get more honest than the flower market in Adley Street. And this morning, Sakina, you were there with Delia, you were there with Levi and Sean, and they were telling you the difficulties of working in an environment like this, putting food on the table. Delia was saying, we basically work to eat.
Yes, a hand-to-mouth existence. And Delia was telling us that she started working in the flower market at the age of 15, and she is now 55. So, you know, her entire life has been spent there, and she didn't seem to have moved the dial too far from when she started to where she is now. And, you know, she also mentioned, and I think this goes to policy formulation in some way, where they were almost, not in so many words, but essentially asking for some sort of protection, you know, for some of the local industries. We've heard about, you know, the township industries, the tuck shops, and people asking for protection there. And I think they were making a similar call for the flower market. But I think that particular horse is bolted. But essentially, people are saying we've received no protection. You know, there's been no policy that covers us, and so as to ensure our livelihood, because now you can go to a shop that sells clothes, food, and you buy your flowers, whereas previously you would have bought your flowers from them. So very interesting and very nuanced, you know, and very real, Iman, the bread and butter issues.
And we're going to come back with the bread and butter issues with you, Kim, because we want to talk about unemployment, youth unemployment particularly, which is massive, and yet it represents such an amazing opportunity for economic growth. Those numbers looking dismal, not even 1% are the projections. But we're going to ask you to hold that thought for just a moment as we take you back to the red carpet, Lilama.
Now I'll be speaking to the Minister of Home Affairs, Aaron Motsoaledi. Minister, thank you so much for speaking to us today. You know, in the last few years, there have been lots of issues around xenophobia, and we've seen how it's almost like split the country into various factions. And some of the new parties who are contesting the elections, they are actually using that platform to try to garner more voters. People are, well, certain quarters are not happy about the situation with undocumented people in this country. What can you say about that, please?
Of course, nobody is. Undocumented people means they are illegal. There's no normal human being who will countenance the issue of illegal people in their country. So on that one, we are in total agreement. I think what brings the differences is how to deal with it. But that there should not be illegality. Actually, even internationally, a number of people call it irregular migration. Irregular migration, there will be no development. There will be chaos. There can't be any economic development. There can't be stability. There can't be safety and security in any country. Countries will lose their sovereignty. So on that one, we're fully in agreement. The question is, how do you deal with it? And remember on the issue of porous borders, which has caused this. The NICOC, the structure that coordinates the four...
Thanks, ma'am. You can super.
Military intelligence in the army, crime intelligence in the police, civilian intelligence, state security, and financial intelligence center. When they were doing their intelligence...
Oh, sorry. You can go back to...
Porous borders. And said the structure must be...
No, we're done.
Oh, thank you.
To manage our borders. That structure was to be called Border Management Authority. Parliament took 12 years to enact an act just to get that authority into being. Home Affairs could not have established anything without an act. It took 12 years, precisely because of some of the factors we are mentioning. differences in understanding how to manage our borders, but no differences in accepting that we can't have illegal people in the country. Who would like illegal zamazamas ravaging our minds and doing all sorts of things? There's no normal human being who can support that.
Minister, thank you so much for your time. That was the Minister of Home Affairs, Erin Motsoaledi. I am now going to my colleague on the other side, Lulama.
Thank you very much, Abra. I am joined by the Minister of Tourism, Patricia de Lille. Ma'am, this is the last SONA for this administration. And as the Minister of Tourism, do you think that you have made an impact when you took over that department?
Most definitely. The relationship between the private sector and the public sector is very good. You know, government invests 1 billion rand to market our destination, South Africa. But the private sector put in about 30 billion. So we are working very well together. We've seen 8.5 million tourists coming to our country from January to December, create 1.3 million jobs, and over 28 billion US dollars spent. So I think there's still room to go, and you know, we need to be more aggressive because the world owes us nothing. We have to go out and sell ourselves.
How are we going to improve things? Do you incorporate people in rural areas in the tourism industry so that they can benefit, whether it's BAB or small businesses?
Oh,
no problem. After stay there, President.
For the first time about 3 weeks ago,
so we're going to come back to you just
where we got all the townships and villages and small dolpies the opportunity to come and, you know, market and expose what they have got to offer. So we're working very close with Satu Vito.
Thanks, Studio.
But also in terms of assisting SMMEs, we are funding SMMEs. When we go to funding for 150 SMMEs that has never been exposed to an international market. We pay the airfares, we buy the space for them, and then we also assist them to sell themselves. There are great opportunities, and especially for job creation in the SMME space. Yes.
Thank you very much. That was the Minister of Tourism, Patricia de Lille. With that, take over Samkelo.
Indeed, Lulama, the ministers are coming in. The Minister of Monitoring and Evaluation, just the essence of evaluation. How have you evaluated the state in the past tenure of this sixth administration?
We have checked if all the APPs that have been put in place, that we have adopted, have at least been able to put systems in place, even if they don't finish whatever it is that they were supposed to do, because some of them are long-term and some of them are short-term. And we have also been able to evaluate and assess some of the commitments that the past 5 years SONAs have actually said. So we have been able to assess that, and to where we are, we do believe that we have done well.
When you look at some of the commitments that have been made, the new smart city, new smart cities, one in Tshwane, one in Lanseria, and the one linking KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape. How far are plans afoot for those particular areas?
We know the one in Lanseria that work has already started. We have already appointed contractors. We have also appointed planners that would then now assist us to be able to, of course, with the issue of municipalities being under coalition government, it become a little bit difficult for us to have all 3 spheres of government working together to expedite that which has been said it should be done.
Thank you very much, Minister. Just to bring in the Deputy Minister of Telecommunications in the country. Deputy Minister, the spectrum, how far are you in the releasing of the spectrum?
Samkelo, we've released the spectrum. As you know, that the regulator, ICASA, 2 years ago in March, finalized the release of the auction through the spectrum. So the spectrum has been released. We have cleared the airways. So we've made it available by July of last year. So the telecommunications company, which made a bid for the spectrum, are in full control of the spectrum now. What we are busy now as the department, we have finalized, we have taken through cabinet the next generation spectrum policy. The minister is going to be gazetting very soon.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. On the issues pertaining to the spectrum there from the Deputy Minister, we are also just going to try and grab the Minister of Water and Sanitation within the country, Mr. Senzo Mkhunu. Just, Minister, can we have a word with you? Hello, Minister, just the issue of water. How far are you with resolving the issues of water provision in the country, and also just the crisis at Rand Water? An official was assassinated last week. Your response?
Well, I don't want to be general and say provision of water in the country. I want to say that where we have to provide water, we're making all the efforts to make sure that everybody does have access to water, and it is increasing, and the developments are really positive. I'm talking about, in the main, the projects that President will talk about here that are tangible in terms of storage of water throughout the country. He will talk to a number of key projects that are underway, that are about to start. He will talk about key schemes that will really make a difference on the ground from where we started up to now. So from where we are, if had it not been for the reasons that not everybody has water right now, I would have said, with the work that we're doing, we are very happy and prospects are great that people will soon see the difference. But in Rand Water, the Rand Water incident is an ugly incident, and any other incident that has taken place similar to that one, they are all ugly. They need to be stopped, and we are relying and working hard with the police to make sure that those who perpetrate this are brought to book, so that there's a consequence for everyone who undertakes this job, these things, together with those who cook them behind the scenes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Senzo Mkhunu. Over to you, my colleague Lula Mamata, who is with the leader of the official opposition, Mr. John Steenhuisen.
Thank you, Samkele. I am joined by the DA leader, John Steenhuisen. I won't be long with him because the bells are ringing, an indication that they need to be inside. But John, I heard you saying that the real State of the Nation address will be after today.
Yeah, this is a play State of the Nation address. It's not going to be realistic. We're going to hear lots of populist promises like we've heard over the last 5 years. The reality is, with a 6% budget deficit and all of the broken promises of the last 5 years, nobody believes it. The bells are ringing, and they're ringing for Cyril Ramaphosa. This will be the last State of the Nation address by an ANC president with their own majority. And I think that the real State of the Nation address will be in a couple of weeks' time after the election, where the real vision about how we're going to rebuild and rescue South Africa is going to be set out.
What must he be saying tonight to give hope or to inspire confidence to the public?
I think that the president's got a credibility problem. I think that, he's promised us jobs, they haven't materialized. Unemployment is worse. He promised us to fight crime. Crime has gone up. Gender-based violence has gone up. He's promised us to fix load shedding for the last 5 years. Load shedding is worse than it is now. He promised to fight corruption. Corruption is now worse than it was under Jacob Zuma. This is a president who's no longer believable. So whatever he says tonight, I think is going to be like water off a duck's back, frankly. I think everyone's ready for the election because they know that the election is going to bring the real change that South Africa needs.
How do you think then things are going to be done going forward when that real State of the Nation address is being done? What issues and how are these issues, the challenges that the country is facing now, are going to be addressed?
Well, I unveiled my blueprint to rescue South Africa in the course of the last week. It sets out very clearly how we would fix load shedding, how we would get Parliament working again, how we would make sure we can get people into work, how we would protect social grants by ensuring financial security, and how we would fight corruption by reintroducing the scorpions. Those are the things that I'm looking forward to being delivered after this election as part of a new government in South Africa.
Let's talk after his speech.
Thank you so much, Lou. Cheers.
That was the DA leader, John Steenhuisen, as all the MPs now and invited guests are expected to be inside the City Hall, sitting in the public gallery for the visit the guests, and the MPs will be taking their seats and wait for President Cyril Ramaphosa to address the nation at 7 o'clock.
got a view on the red carpet there. Chief Justice of the Constitutional Court, Justice Raymond Zondo, arriving there today. And his role has been massive as we look back on the issue of accountability, on state capture. We've been reflecting all day about really, whether we've managed to A, arrest it, and B, arrest people, who were implicated, managed to complete those investigations. The police minister earlier on was saying how various, elements of enforcement have been beefed up under this administration in order to do just that. But seeing is believing a lot of the time, especially in our reality.
It's very difficult to convict somebody of corruption because if I'm a politician, I don't sign anything. I give the instruction by word of mouth. Most of the time, indirectly, somebody delivers a message that this is the company that needs to be appointed. That company gets appointed, somebody in the company goes and withdraws money, cash, and it goes to all sorts of people. When we were driving around municipalities talking to executive directors of infrastructure about their challenges, one of these very strange things that we found is that the same way that people used to have combat names during the time of the liberation struggle, they are now combat names for corruption. So if they are talking on the phone, instead of saying Sakina Kangwenda, you get a new name. So an investigator who is hearing two people talking, and you are not one of them, that the money must go to you, will hear a different name. They will call you Susan. So the investigation ends there. And then the next year you get a new name, so that the time that they get, so there are very, very creative ways of moving money around. And so the conviction for corruption must be on the basis of proving that you benefited, so most of it ends up as just maladministration or lack of accountability. So I shudder to think how far the findings of the Zondo Commission are going to go. They will really catch those people who have not applied their mind or who became very comfortable and would have left traces. If you think about how many people have been convicted for corruption, every time I only think 2 or 3 people that I know. But every week we read about corruption in the papers and so on.
And I think it's also the lack of high-profile people who are, actually hold before our courts. Excuse me. Coming back to the issue of unemployment, Kim, I think it is common cause that this country cannot continue on this trajectory, because it is very dangerous for a country to sit with upwards of 70% of youth unemployment. May I just interrupt there myself? Iman, I believe former President Thabo Mbeki is arriving. I'm hoping you.
Lot of
Africa because everyone can express their anger. But the other is that people are 70% of our spending is on the social wage, and that is what is unsustainable. And I think that is maybe the fear that when that money runs out, what will happen to that anger and that desperation?
And I suppose the problem there is, what is the alternative? Because somehow people have got to put food on the table. Somehow you've got to put money into people's hands. And if you're not creating employment, if you're not stimulating the economy, how else do you get that money to people?
And year and year goes by where we hope this year it's going to turn around, and it doesn't. And I do think you can feel that level of frustration rising, and you see that also in the voting patterns with the Ipsos poll and the EFF, I think rising to almost 20% in that poll.
19.5,
yeah. And for a party whose main message is revolution, the people are speaking.
Listen, we want to thank the pair of you for being with us today and making sense of some of these complex issues. Thank you so much to Gundo Maswime, who is a civil engineering lecturer at the University of Cape Town, and Kim Silberman, who is economic strategist with the Matrix Fund. So really appreciate you. We're going to do a hot change. Our team is going to do something fantastic and magical and show you pictures. Sakina and I are going to narrate our way into our next two guests, and you don't want to miss it, guys, because they are going to talk us through the pomp and splendor of the afternoon. We'll tell you what the different things are that are going to happen. And Sakina, the soundtrack to our glorious afternoon and our almost sunset is this beautiful navy band behind us.
Indeed it is. Ek wil huis toe gaan na mama toe is what they're playing now. Yeah, that's what's happening.
I heard you call your Afrikaans a little bit earlier. I was quite impressed.
Iman, do you know, I was Afrikaans. Ek was Afrikaans eerste taal op laerskool.
Is it?
Ja.
Uitstekend. Hoe is Afrikaans? Sleg nie?
Glad nie sleg vir 'n Durban meisie nie, hoor.
Ooh, Janne, my mother would just say Janne. You know, again, and I love that we're trying to find these moments of levity in what we're discussing, but it is bleak, Sakina.
It is.
When you hear what our analysts are saying, when you hear how people are living and the challenges that they're going through, just with putting bread on the table, forget about sending their kids to school. You know, if you look at the malnourishment statistics in South Africa, 1 in 4 children is stunted and malnourished. 27%, in fact more than one child in the South African reality is struggling for food. Families really have it hard out there. Every quarter, the Pietermaritzburg Project puts out its statistics on the average food basket, and every month that is going up. Families are really, really struggling, and so this SONA really has to provide a beacon of hope for South Africans, but it can't be empty calories. It's got to be something meaty that the president is saying, as our analysts are saying, detail-oriented, that says how things are going to change month 1, month 2, month 2. But have you ever experienced something like that?
No. And I think we also need to be realistic. We need to temper our expectations, because we've been hearing the same story for how many SONAs? I mean, we come here year after year after year. When last did you hear a good story about economic growth in South Africa? When last did you hear a real good story about a dent in the unemployment statistics?